Stop! Wait, hold on. You have to see this. This rabbit, let's call him Barnaby, followed every single success rule you've ever heard of. And it all went horribly, spectacularly wrong. He was supposed to be a millionaire by now, living in a carrot-shaped mansion, but instead, well, you'll see. He bought the courses, he watched the videos, he believed with all his fluffy heart that if he just followed the recipe, success was guaranteed. A simple paint-by-numbers path to glory. Or so he thought. He was promised a foolproof system, a secret map to treasure that only the most dedicated could unlock. And oh, was he dedicated. He was ready to become the ultimate success story, the poster child for the hustle-harder generation. He had his highlighters ready, his vision board plastered with pictures of fancy sports cars and exotic vacations. He was all in. But the universe, it seems, had a different, much funnier plan for poor Barnaby. He did everything they said. The gurus, the influencers, the motivational speakers with impossibly white teeth. He listened to all of them. The rules came at him like a digital hurricane. "Outwork everyone!" one card screamed. "Visualize your success!" another one buzzed. "Network until you drop!" A third one blinked in neon letters. It was a symphony of commands, a tidal wave of advice, and Barnaby, our determined hero, decided to surf it. He thought, if one rule is good, then all the rules must be better. He created the ultimate routine, a Frankenstein's monster of every piece of success advice ever uttered. He was convinced this was the secret. This was the code he had to crack. He was about to become a productivity machine, a finely tuned engine of achievement. What could possibly go wrong? Well, let's start at the beginning. The very, very early beginning. First rule, wake up at 5 a.m. Before the sun, before the birds, before his brain had a chance to realize what was happening. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm wasn't just a sound. It was a declaration of war on sleep. The gurus said the most successful people on earth own their mornings. So, Barnaby decided he would own his morning, even if it felt like the morning was owning him. He'd leap out of bed. No snoozing allowed. Snoozing is for failures, they said. Then, straight into a freezing cold shower to activate the nervous system. It definitely activated something, mostly a high-pitched shriek. He was told this would build discipline and mental fortitude. Right now, it was just building a deep and personal hatred for plumbing. But he did it. Every single day. He was tired, sure, but he was also disciplined. That had to count for something, right? He was collecting success points, one miserable, freezing morning at a time. Next up, read every book. Rule number 2 was to consume information like it was an all-you-can-eat buffet. So Barnaby read, and read, and read. He didn't just read. He inhaled books. Books on finance, on leadership, on how to win friends and influence badgers. He read so fast the pages were just a blur. He was told leaders are readers, so he set out to become the biggest leader of all time, one speed read chapter at a time. The problem was, he was reading so much, he wasn't actually anything. The ideas were a jumbled mess in his head. One book said, take massive risks. The next said, be cautious and save every penny. One guru advised, focus on one thing, while another screamed, diversify your efforts. His brain felt like a smoothie made with every fruit in the supermarket, including the weird spiky ones. It was a confusing, contradictory mess of advice. But hey, he was reading 10 books a week. His bookshelf was groaning, and his brain was buzzing. That's progress, isn't it? And then came the most important rule of all. Work out, hustle, grind. There was no time for rest. Rest is for the weak. Sleep is for the unsuccessful. Barnaby's schedule was a work of terrifying art. Every minute was optimized, every second accounted for. 5 a.m. workout, 6 a.m. reading, 7 a.m. deep work, 8 a.m. networking calls. On and on it went. He ate lunch while answering emails. He listened to business podcasts while he was on the treadmill. He even tried to learn a new language in his sleep, which only resulted in him sleep-talking in badly pronounced French. He was the embodiment of the hustle culture. He was grinding so hard he was practically turning into dust. He believed that sheer effort was the only variable that mattered. If he just worked harder than everyone else, success would have no choice but to surrender. He was sacrificing his hobbies, his friends, his sanity, all at the altar of the grind. He was a machine, a robot programmed for productivity, but even the best machines need maintenance. And of course, the final unbreakable rule: positive thinking only, no negative thoughts allowed. Barnaby stood in front of his mirror every morning, chanting affirmations. I am a money magnet. I am a beacon of success. I attract opportunities like a picnic attracts ants. He tried to force himself to be happy, to be confident, to be the successful person he so desperately wanted to be. He was told to fake it till you make it. But the faking was getting exhausting. Every time a doubt crept in, he would squash it down. Nope, positive vibes only, he'd chirp, while inside a tiny voice whimpered, but I'm so tired. He was building a dam against a flood of anxiety and exhaustion, but tiny cracks were starting to appear. He was smiling on the outside, but his reflection looked just as tired as he felt. He was projecting success, but was the universe receiving the signal? It was time to check the results. Still, nothing? After all the 5 a.m. alarms, all the books, all the grinding, all the forced positivity, this was the result? A big, fat, blinking, no progress on his screen. His bank account was the same. His great business idea hadn't taken off. The opportunities he was attracting must have gotten lost in the mail. It was all for naught. The complex machine of his routine had produced absolutely zero. The equation didn't add up. He had put in 100 units of effort and gotten 0 units of reward. It was like trying to fill a bathtub with the drain wide open. All that work, all that sacrifice. For this? A blinking cursor on an empty document. A silent phone. A profound, deafening sense of failure. The system was broken. The recipe was a lie. But I followed all the rules, he thought, his mind reeling. I did everything right. I woke up early. I read the books. I hustled until I couldn't see straight. I was so positive my cheeks hurt from smiling. What did I miss? The generic quotes that once inspired him now seemed to mock him. Just believe, they floated. Believe in what? A system that clearly doesn't work? Never quit, they buzzed. But what if you're just running faster and faster in the wrong direction? He felt like a student who had memorized the entire textbook for a test, only to find out the questions were all about applying the knowledge in ways he'd never considered. He had the ingredients, but he had no idea how to cook. He had the map, but he couldn't read the terrain. The rules were supposed to be a shortcut, but they had led him to a dead end. Tired, stressed, broke. That was the real result. Not success, but burnout. He wasn't a money magnet. He was an exhaustion magnet. He wasn't a beacon of success. He was a monument to wasted effort. The hustle hadn't led to glory. It had led to a faceplant on his desk. He had given everything, and the only thing he had to show for it was a wrinkled suit, a mountain of unread emails, and a profound desire to sleep for a week. This wasn't the dream they sold him. This was a nightmare dressed in motivational quotes. He had chased the carrot of success so hard that he had run himself straight into a wall. And as he lay there, in a puddle of lukewarm, jelly-like coffee, he finally ran out of energy to pretend. Maybe the rules are incomplete. In the quiet that followed the collapse, a new thought began to form. It wasn't loud or flashy like the guru advice. It was a quiet, gentle whisper. What if the rules weren't wrong, but just incomplete. What if success wasn't a checklist you could mindlessly follow? What if waking up at 5 a.m. is useless if you don't know what you're waking up? What if reading 100 books is pointless if you don't stop to think about what they mean? What if hustle without direction is just a fast way to get tired? The light bulb over his head wasn't a flash of genius. It was a flicker of common sense. The fog of shoulds and musts began to clear, and for the first time in a long time, Barnaby started to think for himself. Rules don't replace thinking. He looked around and saw others. Not the mythical gurus, but real people. A fox who was learning to code, not by reading 50 books about it, but by writing small, clumsy programs and fixing them when they broke. A bear who was building a small furniture business, not by chanting affirmations, but by learning woodworking, talking to customers, and slowly improving her designs. They weren't just hustling, they were learning. They weren't just believing, they were building. They were creating actual value. They weren't just copying a list of rules. They were understanding the principles behind them. They were thinking, experimenting, failing, and learning from it. They were engaged with the world, not just with a list of abstract commands, and in that moment Barnaby understood. Success isn't a checklist. It's not a paint-by-numbers kit. It's a sculpture. You start with a raw block of stone, your idea, your goal, and you have to chip away at it. You need tools, which are skills. You need a vision, which is understanding. And you need to actually do the work, which is creating value. There's no magic formula. Waking up early doesn't automatically give you skills. Reading books doesn't automatically create value. Hustling doesn't automatically lead to understanding. These things can be of the process, but they are not the process itself. The real process is messy. It's full of mistakes and wrong turns. It requires thought, adaptation, and a willingness to learn from reality, not just from a book. The checklist shattered because it was a fragile illusion. The new board, skill, value, understanding was solid. It was real. Think, adapt, learn. So Barnaby started over, but this time he wasn't following a script. He picked one thing he was genuinely interested in, let's say designing fun little apps. He didn't start by reading 50 books. He started by trying to build one tiny, simple thing. It was terrible. It crashed. It looked ugly. But he learned something. He adapted his approach. He looked up a specific solution to a specific problem. He learned a little bit of code, then he tried again, and it was a little bit better. He wasn't just grinding, he was practicing with purpose. He wasn't just consuming information, he was applying it. He wasn't just thinking positive, he was building competence, which is the true source of confidence. He was thinking, adapting, and learning, and slowly, painstakingly, but surely, he was making progress, real progress. Did this feel real? Have you ever felt trapped by these fake rules, chasing a checklist that leads to burnout? The world is full of people selling simple answers to complex problems. But the secret isn't a secret rule. The secret is that there are no secrets. There is only understanding your craft, creating value for others, and thinking for yourself. Don't just copy what others say. Understand why it works, and adapt it to your own unique journey. Did you fall for the fake rules too? Comment "think" down below if you're ready to stop copying and start understanding. And subscribe for more truths that don't fit on a motivational poster.